Good evening, everybody. Very warm welcome to all of you for joining for this session dedicated on the PhD in engineering sciences in France. We're very happy to resume this. We have not done for a while, and it's very important to share this information with you. First, to give you a big picture of why we are doing and what's happening, is that just before COVID, and 2023 will be above these numbers, we had 6 million students under mobility through the world. According to the Ministry of External Affairs of India, 750,000 Indians were studying abroad, and France was welcoming 360,000 students, and a big number of them are doing PhD studies. So it's a kind of very big mobility which is existing. And 42% of the PhD students in France are not holding a French passport. They are coming from another country. It's something which is very unique. So I don't know if you were aware of that. And in addition, on top of that, the added value of doing a PhD in France, one of the added value could be also to connect with the existing French ecosystem in the corporate ecosystem that we're having here, from aerospace, automotive, software, computing sciences, food industry sectors. Everything is existing. All French companies are based here in India, representing 350,000 jobs. And many of them will be very happy to have some candidates who have experienced a PhD in France, familiar with the culture and in the research approach that we are doing. To talk about this topic and about many others, about how we do a PhD in France, how is it done, I've got the pleasure to have with us 4 experts, 3 of them already here, and the 4th one that will join us in a few minutes. We're having Professor Sylvie Pommier. Sylvie is a Deputy Vice President for Doctoral Research at University Paris-Saclay. University Paris-Saclay is one of the biggest one of France, with almost 50,000 students. And Sylvie is doing her research at the Laboratoire of Mechanics and Technology, and will tell us more in a couple of minutes. I've got also the pleasure to have with us Dr. Elena Ceccarelli. Elena is the head of the SRES and head of the Office of Doctoral Studies of the CEA. The CEA is a French Alternative Energies and Atomic Energy Commission. It little sounds like the Indian DAE, if you're familiar with that, the Department of Atomic Energy, but the CEA is doing much more because it has its own research structure through France. And Elena will explain us about the different campuses, the different research activity which is done there. Xavier will join us a little later, so I will introduce just after him. But as an expert, sharing with us how is it to do a PhD in France under another perspective, we're having also the pleasure to have with us Dr. Prajwal Sabnis. Prajwal is a co-founder of Oxa Energy, is also an alumni ambassador of France. And he did his PhD at the École des Mines de Paris, famous schools, and he's a co-founder of Oxa. As I said, Oxa is designing the Mantis, which is a high-performance, 100% electric motorcycle, essentially made in India. He will tell us about his experience and share with you something he has lived as an Indian going to France for his PhD studies. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Sylvie Pommier to tell us about her institute research and how it is to do a PhD in engineering science at UP Saclay.
Thank you.
Sylvie,
hello, nice to meet you. I'm just going to show you some slides, the presentation, a brief presentation. Okay, so just a few words first about, about Université Paris-Saclay. So the Université Paris-Saclay was first created in 2015, but first as an alliance between existing French universities, namely the Paris Sud Université, Université Versailles-Saint-Quentin and Université d'Evry, and also grandes écoles, amongst them 3 engineering schools, École Normale Paris-Saclay, Centrale Supélec, Agro Paris-Tech and Institut Optique. And also research institutions, 7 research institutions, which I'm not going to cite one of them. And it was created then in a second step as a merged university in 2020. And since its creation, it was ranked amongst the best universities in the world in mathematics, physics, and many other fields, most of them in engineering, as you can see on this graph, like telecommunication engineering, automatic and control, biotechnology, mechanical engineering, etc. Just to say a few words also to where it's located, it's in the south of the Paris region. And it's important to know that this region is now undergoing great changes with the Grand Paris program, where you have new train lines, new constructions, and there is also a national program of constructions, renewals of our universities. And at University Paris-Saclay, we have new facilities, and in particular, we have also numerous research laboratories and research infrastructures like supercomputation facilities, neurospin, laser, etc. So you can see it's in the southwest of the Paris region. Just to say a few words now about doctoral training, we have a little bit more than 4,000 PhD candidates, 4,500. It represents 5% of all the doctoral candidates in France, and it's increasing by about 4% per year since 2015. What is really important is also to see that it's really welcoming foreign PhD students. 40% are not French. And what is important also is to know that amongst the foreign PhD candidates, all of them have a French master's degree, but all of them were enrolled with another degree coming from either Europe or a country out of Europe. So we need to check the equivalence between the degrees, but there is no problem in coming according to the disciplines. Well, you have here the places where our PhD candidates come from. Approximately 41% comes from Asia, and 5% of our international PhD candidates come from India, mostly in engineering, by the way, and mathematics, engineering and mathematics. We are also just checking how our PhD candidates are satisfied with their doctoral educations. We have a national survey which is done in France, and here you have the results for Université Paris-Saclay. So we have asked our PhD candidates if they are satisfied with their PhD supervisors, if they would recommend to do a PhD at Université Paris-Saclay, and also this is something interesting for non-French speaker, in what language they plan to write their thesis. So you can see that there is a large level of satisfaction with either the supervisors or the university, and also that most of them, our foreign PhD candidates, will plan to write their thesis in English, and there is also some of them who would write them in French. So just to give an insight of what is a PhD in France, in Université Paris-Saclay and also elsewhere, and how it works. A doctoral candidate is at the same time an early career researcher. It will be hired as a researcher to do research in a lab, and so we have here about 275 research labs where the research can be hosted to work and do research. And at the same time, the PhD candidates are enrolled in a doctoral program with collective training proposed by the doctoral school, and a supervisor who is providing a personal mentorship during the 3 years. And you have also annual follow-up committees to see how the research is progressing and if the development of the skills are satisfying. So you have this choice with the research lab, the doctoral school, the PhD candidates, and the supervisor. So we have a series of different doctoral schools and research labs. So we have doctoral school. Each doctoral school is constructed as a group of research labs. And we have 21 different doctoral schools in various fields, from physics, biology, humanities, etc., and also engineering. So to be enrolled for a PhD, it's a selective process. First, we ask that you hold a degree equivalent to a master's degree and some research experience. So you need to have either an internship or a research project or some field activity in research. So a first research experience. We also require that you have a funding for at least 3 years. This funding can come from you know, for example, your government or from your institution, your home institutions, but most of the time it's a doctoral contract that is proposed by the university, by the partners of the university, or in some cases by companies. The average salary of these contracts is about 2,000 euros per month. We, of course, ask for a minimum level in English or in French, and the selection process involves the supervisor and also a panel from the doctoral school. But each doctoral school has its own recruitment or selection process within a framework that is defined by the university. So then to obtain the PhD degree, well, after 3 years of research work, training, etc., there are some conditions to obtain the doctoral degree. Of course, you need to write a thesis. This thesis is subjected to a peer review with 2 reviewers and oral defense. And you can have some additional conditions fixed by the doctoral schools, for example, to have a certain number of scientific publications, to have attended seminars, workshops, and to have completed the training programs. All of this can be done in English, but you will be also offered French courses, and we encourage very much the foreign PhD candidates to learn French. Most of the time, the PhD candidates will be able to learn French and evolve in France with the French language, but they won't write their thesis in French because it's more difficult, let's say, to go to write 200 pages in French. It can be done in English. Now there are 2 different types of doctorates. We have the standard doctorate, where you have 1 or 2 supervisors that comes from the same academic research lab, well, 1 from the University Paris-Saclay and the doctoral school, and 1 PhD candidate, and you have 1 doctoral degree from Université Paris-Saclay. We have also the in-company doctorate, which is a CIFRE contract, where you have 2 supervisors, 1 from the academic lab and another 1 from a company. There is also work with the company, and you obtain a normal doctoral degree. It's the same degree, but the conditions to prepare your thesis is different. We also can propose an international framework for the PhD with 2 levels of partnership. The first one is a slight partnership with an international co-supervisions, where you would be enrolled at University Paris-Saclay for your PhD, but you can have 1 supervisor in France and another 1 in another country. And you will obtain 1 French doctorate degree from University Paris-Saclay. And the last one is what we call the co-tutela doctoral obtained in co-tutela or in international joint doctorate. You can have 2 supervisors, 2 academic host research labs, 2 universities in 2 countries, and 2 joint doctorate degree obtained together in a framework for which we have an agreement between the 2 universities. And usually it's a sandwich year, for example, 2 years in France, 1 year in India, for example, or it can be reversed as you like. We are proposing some financial support for this kind of schemes. We call that the international doctoral program, and you can find that on our webpage, where we will support this type of doctorate. Okay, so I'm just I will be open to answer your question, and you can have also many information on our website. And of course, you can find the subject, the offer of the PhD subject also on this website, where you can find many subjects in many fields directly. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sylvie. It's been very interesting, and I'm sure will raise a lot of questions. Several of them came already, but some absolutely dedicated for you, because we talk about materials, nanomaterials in cement, paste, and things like that. So that will come a little later to them. Without further ado, I'd like to invite, if you could, Sylvie, on your side, stop the sharing of your screen, and I'd like to invite Elena to share her screen and to explain us how PhD are done inside the French CEA.
First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me and presenting our research program. Is it fine?
Yeah, can you put it? Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, I am working at CEA. The CEA is the French Alternative Energy and Atomic Energy Commission, and it has a specific doctoral program. So I will present you the overall activity of CEA and the doctoral program. CEA is what we call an RTO, a research and technology organization, and has the particularity of being very close to the industry. So most of our PhD students and staff are indeed engineers that link fundamental research to applied research. In addition, we have a internal school, which is called ENSTN, and that's why you see on my slide the name ENSTN, which is devoted to the dissemination of the knowledge and know-how that is produced by CEA. The main research axes in CEA are digital transformation, energy, and health technologies, and this research area include renewable energy, solar, wind, battery, nuclear energy, technological research for industry, but also health and life science. We have a very strong lab on climate and environment, as well as artificial intelligence and automatic control. So I would say that all we call hard science is present at CEA, from the fundamental research to the more applied one. We have 10 research centers that are spread in France. The biggest one is in Saclay, and in fact, we are a member of the Université Paris-Saclay. We work in close relation with this university. The other big CEA center are in Grenoble and in Cadarache. The CEA Saclay Center is more devoted to fundamental research, while in Grenoble is really research and technology application, and in Cadarache is more nuclear application. Some key figures about CEA. We are 20,000 employees, including, of course, our PhD students, because you have a CEA contract once you do your PhD in our research centers. We are the second beneficiary of EU funding, and also the second in Europe in filing patents, and the first one in France. This is just to show you the link, the strong link that CEA has with industry and with innovation. Since 1972, we have 2028 technological startups that has been created, and around 100 of them are still alive, which means that they were really working well. So concerning the PhD student, we have right now 1,800 students located in all our research centers, and 32% are from abroad, foreigners. So we have actually 82 nationalities present in our centers, which means that we are really international. Among those foreign students, of course, we have Indians, and right now we have 34 PhD students that come from India, and those students, half of them have been doing an M2 degree in France or overall in Europe, let's say, but the other half came to CEA directly from India, so having acquired their master or engineering diploma in India. Now, how to apply to come for a PhD at CA? The first step is, of course, to look on our website. Here you have the link for a PhD thesis subject that fits your interest and background. It is important, the background. I might be interested in doing, I don't know, astrophysics, but I am a biologist, so I cannot apply for something that doesn't fit with my real background. So this is really important, because your application will be really evaluated in terms of link between your knowledge and know-how and the research subject you want to work on. So once you find a thesis subject that you really like, you can find on that site the contact of the researcher that you have to whom you have to write an appropriate letter of motivation. Appropriate means that it has to be specific. You need to know what you are going to ask and why you are going to that lab. I guess that you are trained to do a letter of motivation, but you need also to send your CV with academic record, professional experience. As already Sylvie said, it is important that you have been already working in a lab, that you have done an internship somewhere, other activity that you might have at personal level, and if possible, references. So teachers, professors with which you have been working, and they can somehow certify that you are indeed motivated students. After this, you might have an interview with the PI, and if you are the PI is happy, then you can go to the next step. Why we have to step in the application is that we want really to make sure that your mobility is a success. So this means that if by any chance we don't take you for a PhD, doesn't mean that you are not good enough. It just means that we feel that the mobility plus the research work, it's very demanding to do a PhD, might be too much for you. So once the PI has accepted your application, this application is also evaluated by the head of the department and the direction of the CA scientific program and the human resources. Once all those people are agreed in the fact that you are the person for that PhD subject, then we, of course, need to have the approval of the doctoral school to which you will belong. So we contact the doctoral school, and you might have to, depending on the doctoral school, have to pass another interview. But usually all the candidates that have been selected by the CA are also accepted by the doctoral school. Once all this process is done, we will send you a letter of agreement so that you can start all the procedure for the visa and get all the support you need to come to France. So which kind of contract you get if you are a PhD student at CEA? All the students will have a fixed term contract to develop a research project in our laboratory. The duration will be 3 years. An extension might be possible, but under limited condition, notably for sick leave or maternity leave, or in very few cases, if you need to finish the work to get an excellent publication or whatever, we can, of course, make an extension. All this is, of course, discussed with the doctoral school you belong to. You have a test period of 1 month, and you get a gross salary of around 2,135 euros per month. The participation in courses that are delivered by the NSTN and as to specific trainings for PhD students are also possible within CA. CA provides you social benefit. You will see all that. Just all this to tell you that you are really like a CA employee. So you get all these somehow advantages. Of course, you have also some restriction. You cannot publish or communicate about the result you got in the CA lab without a previous authorization for your thesis supervisor. You need to have a yearly registration at the university in order to be able to have a contract in CA. Because I remind now that the PhD diploma is not delivered by the CA, but by our partner university. So this university might be Université Paris-Saclay if you are working in the CA center of Saclay, but it might be Université of Grenoble if you are on Grenoble, or Aix-Marseille Université if you are doing your PhD in Cadarache. Just to finish up with what we provide for PhD students, we are providing training, and these are not scientific training, but what we call soft skill trainings that you will get all along your PhD studies. So here an example of the training we are providing for first-year student conducting your thesis and determining your career project is just to start your PhD as a project, a 3-year project, and to help you organizing your work in order to make sure that you manage in 3 years to finish your work. At the second year, we open you up to the management of scientific project, or if you have this fiber, to innovation and technology transfer. And finally, in the third year, we help you with the writing of your thesis or to prepare your defense efficiently. So I think that this is all I needed to tell you about CA. If you have still questions and want to come, just write us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Elena. Very instructive with a lot of information for the whole different stages of the process. And I'm sure, again, some questions will come already. Several of them are in the box, and we will take them after the last presentation. We're having the pleasure to welcome with us Dr. Xavier Roboam. Xavier is a Deputy Director of the LAPLACE lab, which is based in Toulouse in the southwest of France. The LAPLACE means the Laboratory of Plasma and Energy Conversion, which is simply the largest academic research institute in France in the field of plasma and electrical energy. So Xavier, thanks for joining us. And if you could please unmute yourself and tell us more about how PhD is done in your lab and in Toulouse. You're on mute. You're on mute, Xavier.
I'm sorry. I was telling that just good morning, first of all, for this afternoon. I'm pleased to present and to introduce my lab with few words. First of all, about the LAPLACE, and then as for my two previous colleagues, I will introduce some issues about the why and how making a thesis in our university. So a few words about our lab. The LAPLACE is an acronym for a French acronym for Laboratoire, Plasma et Conversion d'énergie, but I think it may be understood even in English. We are used to say that it's the largest academic research institute in France in the field of electrical energy conversion and plasma, with more or less 300 people, one half of permanent staff, and an average of 110 PhD students at the moment. We are situated in Toulouse, in the southwest of France. In Toulouse, we are situated in 3 sites. I will come back to one typical aspect related to hydrogen topic, which constitute an important aspect with more and more important facilities. Just to give few words and few keywords about our research, we are, as I said, situated in the field of electrical energy conversion, and we are clearly involved deeply in transitions, energy transitions, environmental transition, and sustainable development. So in terms of keywords, we are working on physics of cold plasma, on material aspects, electromagnetism, thermal aspects, and also control and optimization of complex systems for energy conversion. And that science are applied in several domains, especially in Toulouse. It's a typical town for aerospace, aeronautic and space. And other electrified transportation like electric vehicle, energy, general aspects, environment, and health. So very quickly, I skip some illustration because we have no time to go deeper in that aspects. First topic is related to the what we call the cold plasma. Plasma is the first state of the matter with gas ionization by applying high voltage conditions for discharge creation. And here you have an example in the space domain. This picture is illustrates plasma propulsion for the stabilization of satellites. Another second topic is related to materials. There is huge skills on insulation materials, the electric materials in the lab. These materials are here to face harsh environment and to face integration objectives in systems. Here you have another example, which is related to an organic lead in the field of lighting. A third topic is related to electromagnetism and thermal aspects. For example, here you've got an illustration of a complex statistic modeling results. It's for climate evolution estimation, and it's a contribution to the GEECS report that have been made in cooperation with LAPLACE. And finally, the last but not least topic is related to system aspect in energy conversion device. Whatever, if we speak about actuation devices, electric motors, electric machines, motor and generators, power electronics, or also, as I said, hydrogen topic. At the moment, hydrogen technology in LAPLACE correspond to a deep involvement with the building of the H2 Techno Campus that will be one of the biggest testing center in Europe with 10,000 square meter and for testing fuel cells, electrolyzers at the megawatt scales. This make to involve us in numerous challenge. You've got here related to all of that field. So to continue, I think that I will present some redundant aspects with respect to the two previous talk, but it's sometimes interesting to repeat. So as it has been said before, the thesis duration is around 3 years, sometimes a bit more. We recruit PhD students at the minimum of a master degree. And usually we make the recruitment process through an interview based on curriculum and reference letter, and begin the cooperation through a master internship is certainly better for us to test if the cooperation is convenient for both sides. In terms of funding, there is a chart of Thesis that sets a minimum rating, which is mandatory, more than 1,000 euro per month, but it's not a usual amount, which is more around 2,000 euro per month for doctoral contract. It's an average. Sometimes more. My colleague was talking about agreement with industry and CIFRE thesis. In that case, it can be more important funding. We also have help for installation in Toulouse with a toolbox that may help foreign students to accommodate in Toulouse, with some facilities in terms of accommodation with administrative residents. And as it has been also said, we have no problem to process the whole PhD in English, whatever, if it's during the thesis, but also to complete the document, the PhD document. Also, as it has been said previously, each PhD student must be registered both in university, but also in a doctoral school. In our case, we are in the GEETS school. You've got here all the topics in which you can find our topics related to electrical energy and also plasma engineering. The doctoral school sets administrative issue, and it has been detailed that we have also complementary training in terms of professional insertions, foreign language. In your case, it may be French language. For improvement, for improving your level in French language, and also complementary to the PhD thesis, you need, it's mandatory to have a certain number of training, for example, scientific seminars and so on. You've got here a picture about the origin of PhD students in the GEETS doctoral school. You can see that 2/3 are coming from France, but 1/3 is coming from other countries, and especially from Asia. We hope that after this PhD tour, this figure may be improved. I don't know. And to complete my talk, you've got here a last important figures and picture that illustrate the fact that most of the PhD students are under employment after 1 year. We have nearly, so here it's the GEETS figures, and here it's the average for PhD, I guess, in France. So as you can see, most of the students are under employment. You have also some other situation for retired old people and further education after the thesis. So it's certainly an efficient way to cross through the industry, especially. And okay, thank you for listening me, and why not seeing you in Toulouse very soon.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing this information on these slides, also about the employment, which is one of the questions we will have, and which is also maybe, I guess, one topic that our next panelist will introduce, from energy conversion done in your lab at the LAPLACE to high performance electrical motorbike designed by Francois-Xavier. The transition is quite easy for me. Francois, thanks for joining this panel, and can you share with us your experience as you, from India, went to Europe and did your PhD in France? How was it, and what has been your next stage after that?
Thank you, Francois. Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to share my slides.
Yep.
I have a small slide deck here. So what I'd be doing is kind of taking you through my time in France. I did my thesis a while ago, so just 1 second. So I would like to cover 3 different segments of doing a doctoral study in France. The first one would be what it takes to get there. So how do you go about starting your PhD thesis in France? What is important? What do they look for? What you need to be prepared with? And from there, I will go to what kind of research atmosphere you can expect in France, because the environment in which you do research is very important as part of doing your PhD, and I'll cover a little bit of that. And thirdly, I'll cover a little bit about the essentials of studying in France, coming from an Indian perspective, because that has been my experience, and I trust a lot of the participants today are looking for this information to help them with. But first, what I do presently, I'm a co-founder at Orha Energies. This is my baby. We've been working on this motorcycle project for 2015. Before this, I was working with Safran Engineering Services. That's one of the engineering arms of the French group Safran. For those of you who may know or who may not know Safran, if you are aware of either the Mirage 2000 fighter jets or the Rafale aircraft, which is the latest acquisition of the Indian Air Force, Safran makes about 40% of that aircraft. Wheels, landing gear, ejection seats, etc. And they also provide engines for all the Airbus aircraft that you'll be flying, A320, A320, etc. Previously, as part of my work in Safran, and also as part of our work that we do here at my current company in Orha, we have worked with companies, French companies like Airbus and Valeo, and we have also worked with some of the research entities of the German company Continental, who have a very large electric vehicle division, research division in France. So we do get to work quite a lot with collaborators in France after the thesis, and a lot of it actually opens up thanks to what we learned and the kind of connections and work culture that we were able to build during my time at PhD. Even my co-founder has studied in France, so the French connection definitely helps. So I worked in crack growth analysis in advanced materials, primarily in aerospace materials research. My research work was a very numerical analysis. I worked on the kind of work where you develop the mathematical models or the material models that you'll be using in these other simulation software, right? So it's very applied work, very related to how you It was a fixed duration contract, which means I had exactly 3 years, maybe give or to 1 month because of the breaks and the delays in starting and finishing. But by and large, exactly 3 years to complete the thesis. My primary sponsor, as I said, it was an industrial research contract. My industrial project partner was Safran, the SNECMA, which makes aircraft engines. So Safran has multiple entities which make engines. So the aircraft entity group was sponsoring my PhD. France has a very large focus on solving industry problems, right? So there are different kinds of PhD analysis and thesis you can do. Some of it is academic, where you have to go do a course, define a project, define a topic, and then start the study and then cover your doctoral thesis in a certain timeline. Second analysis is the industrial PhD, where the industry has a very clear problem to be solved. And this is what you need to focus all your efforts on in a fixed duration, 3 years, 4 years. That depends on the contract and the university. In my particular case, SNECMA had a contract. It was a sponsored project by SNECMA. Our team was a contract agency which manages all the PhD contracts and the coordination between the industry partner and the university. I work in a lab called Sciences and Material, or the Materials Center, or a Center for Materials Research, which is based in a small town called Avery, about 35 kilometers outside of Paris. This is also one of the plants for the SNECMA team. And the school I was affiliated to was Mines Paris Tech, also known as École des Mines de Paris, which is one of the Grand Écoles. What the Grand Écoles is roughly equivalent to the IITs that we have here. So the French have a similar academic structure in the university system. You have the IITs, you have the NITs and equivalents. So Mines Paris Tech is one of the Grand Écoles. The main city building that you see here on the top right is one of the oldest buildings in Paris. It's right next to Jardin de Luxembourg. It's a very famous old school, started in, I think, 1600s by the king. Originally started to encourage development of mines, but which now is a complete university by itself. The second photo you see below is the lab where we worked. It's a lab for materials research, one of the most advanced labs that they have in and around the area. And I had the opportunity to work with some of the leaders of my domain. These are people who are actually defining how that work gets done and what kind of mathematical models are going to be used in application 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now. So that is the kind of work environment that you get when you're doing these kinds of industrial research analysis. So moving on to the main subject, right? So how do you get there? As I said, I'll be focusing on the industrial thesis, where the problem is very fixed. What this translates to is that when you want to start a thesis, you need to do your homework and research, like you're applying for a master's or like you're applying for a PhD. You should ideally try to find what exact subject you want to work on. In my case, I was working on a very focused approach from my BTech and my master's projects and my master's studies. Through and through, I had maintained a consistent interest in simulating fracture. And that is how I found the that I did my PhD on. And when I applied to them, they had a topic which was a continuation of what I was doing. So I already had the technical background needed to complete which allowed me to have a good chance of completing the sponsored thesis in a fixed amount of time. I had 2 rounds of technical interviews. The first one was about an hour-and-a-half long, complete thorough technical interview. And the second one was almost 2-3 hours in-person interview, talking to different people in the lab, the director of the lab, the thesis advisor, the postdoctoral students with whom you'll be working, whose work you'll be taking ahead. So it's a very involved technical interview round. It's a lot of, you have to be really thorough, precisely because the problem is very specific, the time is fixed, and you need to be able to hit the ground running. It's a very intense and interesting approach to starting your PhD, right? I must warn you, there is a lot of documentation to be done. France is just as good with document requirements as India is. In fact, I finished my master's in June of 2009. I gave my interviews for the PhD application towards the end of June 2009. And that's when I was waiting for the result in July 2009. That was my first taste of the French holiday season, where we had a lot of waiting time coming up, and that was my first taste of the French. Housing is quite interesting. There are multiple options. I myself, for the 3 years, I've lived in student hostels for the first year and a half, 2 years. And in the last 1 year, we shifted to an independent 1 BHK house in Paris. So I have actually lived across different kinds of student hostels and different kinds of independent houses. There are some intricacies that you will have to be aware of. So for example, student hostels are a good bet if you want to, start off, just get in there, start your stay, etc. When you want to go to the house, you have to either find someone who's comfortable giving the house over to an international student, or in some cases, you will have to give a guarantor. In my case, my advisor was nice enough that he actually provided guarantee for the house. So I got a very nice house. So there are some, the student council or the student representational body in your university will be able to help you out, maybe make some arrangements for your housing, etc. I would say when you're starting your journey, after all your interviews are done, after all your doctorate applications are done, processes are done, please plan your trip and the flight tickets accordingly. You know, June, July time, August time is a bit of a peak season as regards travel in France. So you do have to plan your trip accordingly, just so that keep a track on the flight ticket prices. Visas have a lot of paperwork. I think, again, the people here in the embassy and the consulate will be able to help you with that. You will have to coordinate with the university and the lab, because even from the university side or the lab side or your industry partner side, there are multiple sets of documents that have to be done on the back end. So it does take time. This is something you have to be prepared and you have to be very thorough with, because documentation is something that can very easily make or break your experience in France. The more prepared you are with it, the easier your living in France will be.
Could you little accelerate, Savnis, please, Prajwal?
Yeah.
Speed up.
Advisors, you have well-equipped labs, you have pressing industry-related challenges. You will be exposed to one of the most multicultural environments that you have. You have the opportunity to work with a lot of new labs, a lot of different collaborators from US, from in my case, I work with people from Florida, from people in Toulouse, from people in Lille. So a big chance to work in a large environment. You do have to see one understanding from France that they pay a lot of attention to all-round development. So it's not just technical courses. You also get trained in non-technical courses, be it on how to write your thesis, or it could also be on certification courses like managing business or managing research projects, etc. You have a lot of practical emphasis. You will do a lot of conferences, presentations, you will do some teaching. But the most important thing is you make lifelong connects who respect you for the work you do. Essentials, I have 3 points on each of these. French language, as all the panelists have said, is not a must to do your thesis, but it is extremely helpful in daily life and in social life. I landed in France with zero knowledge in French, but I did learn it over 3 years and it helped me immensely over my stay. If you are planning to learn French, it is a lot easier for an Indian student to learn French in India, because they have a lot of custom courses which are catered to the time that we want to spend and the costing that we want to do, as opposed to Alliance Française in France, where you may not have as much flexibility. But please do try and learn French. It will help you in your daily life. Documentation, there are a lot of documents that you have to be thorough and you have to carry with you, right from your birth certificate and passport to visa, accommodation, etc. This is something that you can get into once you start your work. Please be prepared for financial spend. There is a certain amount of money that you'll have to put upfront when you land, when you take your housing contract, etc. So these are things that can be covered as you get closer to your dates of the doctoral study. I already covered daily life. Please do learn cooking. You cannot eat out all the time in France. It's very expensive. You have a lot of good options for local. But when you are in France, I would say you should make use of the social culture there as well. Travel, art, culture, music. There's lots of opportunities. Living in France is not just about working all the time. You have a lot of opportunity to explore and grow as a person. Lastly, in your professional time, because there was a question about postdoctoral skills or what happens after. Please talk to your advisors and colleagues beforehand. There's a lot that you could do. Maybe you could learn what they use beforehand. You go there, that will help you in your time. Depending on how you work, what kind of relations you build with your advisors and your colleagues, you do get postdoctoral opportunities. You do get opportunities to work with French companies across the world. you do get opportunities to continue your research or even start new research objectives. A lot of it is very subjective and depends on how skilled you are and how detailed you are, because France as a country does respect passion and innovation. So I think overall we've had a very positive time studying in France, doing my PhD in France. If you guys have more detailed questions, I'd be happy to answer it, offline or in the Q&A. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you very much. Maybe we have still some questions. We have 4 or 5 minutes to finish. One point which is coming, Francois and Xavier have partially answered it. Could you, Sylvie and Elena, tell us what are your PhD students becoming once they are graduated, once they've got their PhD in pocket? Are they staying in France, going abroad, or going to industry, public sector? What are they doing? Do you know?
Well, yes, of course, we follow that very closely, and I'd say about a little bit more than 1/2 of them will go to different companies and do research mostly in these companies. 1/3 of them will pursue their career in the academic sector as assistant professors, firstly as postdoc, etc. And others will have different careers, sometimes as public servant, high-level public servant, etc. We have different types of, but mostly it's research-oriented careers as academics or in companies. But let's say that there is a majority of them will go to the industrial sector. The other point is that we have a big movement, international mobility after the PhD, with international students, PhDs, young PhDs that will just stay in France, and French that will go abroad, and also some of the international PhDs that will come back to their countries or pursue their career in another country. And there is usually a movement amongst those that are going to another foreign countries, to Canada and United States mostly.
Thank you. Elena, very
Yes.
quickly, can you tell us?
CA, 8% stay in CA. We recruit them. And 32% goes for a postdoc. Most of them, it's 39% get a permanent position in private or public sector, and 12% are fixed term contracts. So most of them just get a permanent position, and then within postdoc and fixed term contract, the others. Yeah.
Thank you. I may answer very quickly to some question coming, people having a BTech plus experience or master plus a lot of experience but wanted to resume with PhD. I think you partially answer that in such case, when you are not in the extension of what you've just done and you've been a gap in industry or somewhere, it's better to come back with an internship or something like this just to show your ability to go for research activity. Is it correct? I don't know who wants to answer that.
I would say yes, as someone who's done the PhD previously, because you do have to sort of bring yourself up to speed on the latest happenings in the field, and that does take time and effort. So if you do an internship, that could be very helpful. Otherwise, you'll spend a lot of time in just trying to understand what's going on. That's not good for the thesis.
To be very honest, in CA it's very difficult to come for a PhD if you are maybe over 30 years old. There is no age limit in CA per se, but I mean, it's not easy. We have so many requests that, it should be really very well justified.
Just to let know that we're going to close now, and I just wanted, we could have discussed much more, but we are limited by time. This session has been recorded for people listening to us, and we will share with you information. So you can ask us our question. We can share the slides that has been shown by our experts today. We'd be happy to do that. So keep in touch on the website of the Institut Français, where you will find the recording sessions and information to contact us in order to be sent the PowerPoint and to be answered the last question we haven't had time to answer. Very quickly, for those asking about aerospace, aeronautics, Toulouse is definitely a big hub. There's not only Toulouse, but Toulouse is a big hub, which is well known. So we can answer very quickly with some of them, but other places are working good with that too. Thanks a lot, Sylvie, Elena, Xavier, and Prajwal. It was very a pleasure to be your moderator for these sessions. Hope our attendees have appreciated the discussions. And as said, we will keep in touch with them so they can contact you and we can pass them the information, the link, which are necessary for them to go deeper in their study of if France is a good destination for them for their PhD. Thanks a lot, everybody. Wish you a very good afternoon in France and evening in India. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.